hoping he or she might recommend a brand. "Can I help you?" I said, keeping my tone polite. The couple looked up, both with startled expressions on their faces, like I'd conjured myself out of the air. "We're fine, lady," the woman said sullenly, at the exact same time as the guy said, "We don't usually buy diapers, is all." "No problem," I said, glancing between them. I was trying to sound sympathetic. My manager, Big Scott, had recently criticized my approachability, suggesting that in the last 10 months I had begun to give off a hermit vibe. "Cloth diapers can be great," I continued, "but it's definitely worth it to have a couple of disposables on hand, too, for emergencies." I stepped closer. "Do you know how much your son or daughter—" I automatically glanced down into the baby carrier, and just like that, there was a pained roaring in my ears, as though everything in the store had been suddenly sucked into my chest. The baby in the car seat was about 1.5 years old, dressed in warm, fleece pajamas and covered with a light cotton swaddling blanket. Uneven tufts of dark brown hair stuck out in funny whorls all over her head, which was crooked to one side, practically resting on her left shoulder. Her eyes were closed, but I knew they would be bright blue. Just like her mother's. And just like mine. "That's not your baby," I said almost absently, taking an unconscious step closer. Was I nuts? "It can't be Charlotte," I told myself. That was just stupid. My niece was 2 miles away, fast asleep at her father's house. I had to be imagining the resemblance. Lots of babies look alike, don't they? But even though it seemed impossible, I knew I was right. I had bought her those pajamas myself, and the swaddling blanket had a purple stain from when my mother had given her grape juice. I remembered myself and stood up straighter, glaring at the couple. "That's not your baby," I said, iron in my voice now. "Of course it is," the woman insisted. "This is our daughter, Sally." "No." Currents of fear for my niece were racing through my body like rats in a maze with no exit. There was so much space between them and me, and no space at all between them and Charlie. Without realizing it, I had loosened my stance, readying myself for a fight. "Her name is Charlotte Allison Wheaton, and she's my niece. Turn around and walk away from her, now." They both stared at me with empty, alien eyes. They didn't look outraged by my kidnapping accusation, or even all that concerned. Instead, they gazed at me with cold, distant curiosity, like I'd just performed an interesting card trick. "Bettina!" I hollered, loud enough for my coworker at the cash registers to hear. "Call 911! Really?" came a small voice from the front. Bettina is a 25-year-old single mother of 2. She's so passive that our store manager forbids her from working on Black Friday, for fear of a riot. "Now!" I screamed. The couple exchanged a glance. The man nodded, and the woman took a few steps backward, slinking away. Then she abruptly vanished. It was startling, but I didn't bother to process it. I kept my eyes trained on the baby, on Charlie. My scream had caused her to stir a little, but she was still mostly asleep. I edged closer. The man reached toward me quickly, and I braced myself, ready to flip him on his ass. Instead of striking me or restraining me, however, he curled one hand around the back of my neck, bringing me in close, as if for a kiss. That surprised me enough that I was off balance when he tangled his fingers in my hair and dragged me backward, farther away from the baby. Yelping with pain, I instinctively raised my hands to where he was gripping me. Then I remembered my combat training and relaxed my arms, trying to ignore the pain so I could pull together a strike to his solar plexus. Anticipating the movement, he gave my head a little jerk and arched it up so I would meet